Hey guys, it's your favorite sisters with the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver podcast. On the show, you'll hear caregivers confessing the good, the bad, and the completely unexpected. You're guaranteed to relate, be inspired, leave with helpful tips and resources, and of course, laugh. Now, let's jump right in to today's guest confession. Good morning, good morning. It's great to see you, JJ. Good morning.
What was that song from? They used to sing. It was like a little show.
I don't know, but we learned that song in church camp.
Oh.
Remember Rise and Shine?
Rise and Shine was what Mom got us up to. That was awful because she did like a marching band.
It was like Rise and Shine.
Yeah, no, that's way too excited. Guess what?
We have a guest today, and I am super ready. You know what? She is also my bestie. Like, if we could have recorded our pre-interview session, I don't know why I don't record them, because honestly, we had the best time and we just chat. I think we talked for like over an hour and a half. We were besties.
She definitely hour and a half.
She always gets the besties, and I usually end up being the bestie, Ari. So just hold on. I'll be your bestie by the time we're done. Let me tell everybody about Ari.
Hey, let's talk about Ari.
Let's talk about Ari instead of talking about us, and you're not going to sing anymore.
Okay.
So today we have with us Ari Medrano, and she is a caregiver, and she has cared for a lot. And I would say that her caregiving experiences are profound. When I read through her bio, she has cared for a mother-in-law, a stranger, a brother who was a victim of a violent crime, a niece, and her mother, all in different stages of illnesses and all with really different outcomes. Mm-hmm. She comes from a family of caregivers, including 2 sons who cared for her during multiple illnesses, including a brain tumor. If you ever, I think, listen to a show, Ari has got, I think, a story that touches everybody.
Yeah.
So, Ari, we are so happy to have you
So many different scenarios.
Yeah, so many different scenarios.
Love, love, love. We are so happy to have you.
Thank you so very much. I'm very excited to be here. You know, no hurt, no pain, no laughter, no what the heck? It goes unwasted.
I'm so like you.
Well, you know, we always like to get started with getting some background information about you. And I know that the first thing you wrote, and I love this because my sister-in-law is Hispanic, and you said, I'm a Mexican immigrant. And you came over to the U.S. at age 1. And I'll let you tell more about your background, about your family, a little bit more about you, so people have like line of sight to understand a little bit about your background. But I love that because I love different cultures.
I do too.
And I think there's something to be said for culture. And today we're definitely going to talk about how backgrounds and culture and that sort of thing impacts care and how that's impacted you. So tell us about you, Miss Ari.
Thank you so much. You know, I think it's so important, especially for those of us who have immigrated right from another country, to be able to say, hey, yeah, me too, right? You're not alone. We're all here, and I got you. Yeah. I know that for me, as you were talking about how important it is, yes, for me to state that I'm an immigrant, I got a flash in front of my eyes of all of the different journeys that I've been on. I mean, just instantly in caretaking, and how being an immigrant was a huge portion of what catapulted me to what I believe be an excellent caretaker. Mm-hmm. Because what I remember very early on in my early years in coming to America, I remember there was a knock on the door. We lived in an apartment. We were undocumented at that time. When people knock on the door, for those folks who are not documented, typically they open the door, no problem. We were like, who's at the door? Right.
That's right.
And it was actually our neighbor. And she just knew that we were, financially challenged at the time. And so she came over with food and all of these things. And then she said to my mother, the government gives you money. And my mother was like, what do you mean? And she says, yeah, they help support you. So I can, talk to you about that. And of course, what she meant was, the welfare system, during that time. And my mother was so taken back. And this is not to say that anyone should not be receiving, additional services of any kind. But the point was, my mother was so taken back. She says, what? No, we came to this country to give, not to take.
Oh, wow.
can I tell you that molded all of the children? Because when I look at all that we do, each one of us, we are people of service. And we've chosen service industries. And when I say that, I'm going to tie that into caregiving, we are people who give.
Wow.
And so when you are in need, no matter what we have, we are going to share. And even if it means that I may go without for a little bit, I know that my neighbor has me. And so my neighbor will come to share, just like that neighbor did.
Yeah.
She came to share her bread.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was such a beautiful moment when I was so young in those multiple years that I was molded into being a caretaker and to being a giver. And what I've learned all of these years is that givers gain. So that is the beginning of my journey here in the United States.
Oh, I love that. Givers gain.
Now, you mentioned other family members. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
Oh, yes.
Where are you in the birth order?
So there were five of us.
Yeah.
My mother actually gave birth to 6 children. One of them she lost when she was 8 months pregnant. The second one has left this beautiful earth here in a physical body, and just 2 short years ago. And so there were 5 of us here. I was the beautiful, colorful middle child that blessed everybody.
That's right. She was the middle.
Oh, here we go.
There we are. Ari's middle.
There's so much to be said for that, Ari.
We won't delve into that, but we all know what happens when you're a middle. Yellow mustard. And so JJ's over there sitting in her gray pouponness. And so...
As the oldest. So you know how it is for an oldest.
So tell us, let's kind of walk through. So you grew up now remind me, you grew up in California? Okay.
Yes.
I want to make
California.
sure. Grew up in California and had your childhood, with your siblings, that sort of thing, and went off and flew the coop and started life. Tell us how, but you had care sprinkled throughout your entire life, because I feel like you have a servant heart. I love that you say that you're a giver, but I'm also like, another word for giver is a servant heart.
Yeah.
And so you've had multiple bouts of caregiving, and you may not have even really self-identified as that. So let's talk about where did that first caregiving, that first bout experience of caregiving begin?
With me taking care of my family? Or was it myself? I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, with your family.
Okay. So it would be, I watched my mother really go through a lot of medical challenges while I was growing up. So with the 5th child, which is my youngest sister, they were told that she had to choose. My mother was told that she had to choose between it was her life or the baby, because she had a lot of just, female challenges going on. And my mother decided neither, like we're both going to live. We're both going to live. And so they said, well, that wasn't going to be possible. My mother did not make a decision. They had my father make a decision. They said, we can only save one of them. You need to choose. And my father was a very, faith-filled man. I'm a product and daughter of 2 a beautiful, the word is going in my head in Spanish. Excuse me. My first language is Spanish and I'm thinking of it in Spanish. They were both 2 preachers.
Yes.
I wanted to say predicadores. They were both 2 preachers. And so we were very faith-filled. And my father says, no, I choose both of them, and I choose God. And my sister was born beautiful, healthy. And my mother, yes, she lost a lot of blood during the time. And she came home and she also needed, care. And so I believe I was in the, 8th grade at the time.
Wow.
And so I saw how my mother needed care. And I think I was just being kind of mentored during that time you're going to have a life of caregiving. So look at the details. Right. And so without knowing, I was definitely being shown how it is to care in love and in good spirit. I don't ever remember anyone coming in angry or upset or having a less than, you got this, spirit. They were always faith-filled people. The room was always, and I do say rooms because whether it was a living room, the family room, the kitchen, my mother's bedroom was always filled with great scents and a great sense of self in the house. And so that was the first time that I had seen it done. And then I saw my mother do it several times. So by the time the time came for the very first one was my cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And my cousin at that time, I believe she was diagnosed at 8 years old and with bone cancer. She lived in Mexico. There was a big difference from where she lived, not only in location, but in the home that she had. So in their home, she only had non-carpeted
Mm-hmm.
floors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In our home, full carpet. Why this is so important is because the bone cancer started in her knee, and it got so bad that there was one amputation of one leg and then the second amputation of the second leg. And she would always say she wanted to come and stay with us during the summer. And the reason she wanted to do that was because here in our home, the only place that she could actually just be herself and have fun on the floor was in our home. So we were the only family that had carpet.
Mm.
So she would come and spend summers with us every summer to roll around literally on the floor and play with us. It was
Amazing.
so incredibly beautiful.
Wow.
Well, and I know that you said that even though she didn't qualify for like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, they helped get you connected to the right people because she loved Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm. It sounds to me like, even though, would you say that, I'm assuming that you helped when you talked about helping to care for her. Care comes in many different forms, and helping her to feel included, helping her to feel cared for, helping her to feel, giving her a sense of normalcy.
Well, and giving her really, as a child, giving her that she deserves that childhood. And you really made that possible.
Yeah.
During that time.
Thank you. Yeah, we definitely did. Okay, so just full transparency. I mean, we just treated her like one of us.
Yeah.
Like, we made fun of her.
Absolutely.
We joked, we're like, oh, really? Come and get me. Oh, you have no legs. Sorry, you. And she would just crack up because she was so used to people tiptoeing around her or didn't want to talk about it. And she's like, hello, this is my life. Like, I'm fully aware I don't have legs. Stop pretending like I do or I don't, or you don't know what to do with that. Mm-hmm. So I have been very, very early on, my poor mother and family, like, I give it to you straight with no chaser kind of person. But I have such a huge heart. Like, I know that I do. And so you know that about me. And so everything that I do in love. And then I hold you capable of, if you think that there's something else going on, that you'll just ask me. And if not, then we probably shouldn't be friends. So she knew that it was coming from love, right? And I will tell you, she gave it right back to me when she was 15 years old, because this went on from age 8 to 15. So the last time, and this is the time that we went to Knott's Berry Farm and to Disneyland, she came out, and I knew that was her dream. My auntie called me and she's like, listen, I know that you're involved in a lot, because my career started in my early 20s in the nonprofit world, working with marginalized people. Mm-hmm. I know, not a shock. So my auntie says, I know you're connected to a lot of organizations and different things. This is what your cousin wants. I don't know how to make that happen. I don't have the funds for this. And of course I knew she didn't have the funds. Everything that they had was going towards, my cousin at the time. So I said, Auntie, like, don't worry, I got this, because I knew I wanted her here with us. I knew that these were the last moments. So I called the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I had a collaboration with them, with a nonprofit that I was working with. And they said, we don't work with international children. However, we will give you the people that we are connected to, and then you can do the footwork. It'll be pretty straightforward. They will tell you what you need to give them. And then, send that over, and they'll walk the steps through with you. But I'm positive that these connections will work on for you and her. And sure enough, they did. They were wonderful. Knott's Berry Farm was great. Disneyland was great. I think we might have also gone to SeaWorld, and there was another one. I can't think off the top of my head right now, but they opened not only did they say yes, but they said, how many tickets? And I'm going, we're Latino, right?
We're Latino. I love that.
How do I sound grateful and not just like taking advantage of them? But it's like, no, seriously, just alone, there's, and so they gave us 10 tickets, 10 tickets. And not only was it just tickets, they had a personal escort that we were given. They gave us these VIP passes to amazing restaurants and experiences. And I mean, my gosh, they gave her the most beautiful transition to heaven. Like just the gap between her being here and her being in heaven. Yeah. It was wonderful. And by the way, they also said to her, the rides that you'll go on may compromise you. So they didn't want her to go on any of the water rides. She said, I don't care. You realize I'm dying, right? Like you realize my time is limited. I'm going to have fun regardless. I'm going to have fun.
Yeah.
And she did. And by the way, that did end up happening. All her filtration that she had ended up getting infected, and she graduated to heaven 6 months thereafter. However, right before she graduated, circling back to giving it to you straight with no chaser and how she gave it back to me, she said, hey, I really like your boyfriend. I had a boyfriend at the time. And she said, he's really, really cute. I haven't had sex yet, right?
Oh, my Lord. This is a G-rated, Ari.
Sleep it. And she says, do you mind if I borrow him? I mean, seriously, cousin, like I'm going to leave a virgin.
Oh, my goodness.
Our caregiving just went back.
I told my auntie this like 5 years ago.
Oh my God.
I think we do have to take a break. Take a break. We're going to take a break right there on that one. So we'll be right back.
It's a new day for getting older and a new day for getting help along the way with CareScout. Say goodbye to aging care that makes older adults feel invisible and family caregivers feel alone. Say hello to a better path to finding, choosing, and feeling confident about aging care. Whether you're trying to understand what type of care and which supports may be right for your loved one, or you need to find quality care now, CareScout can be your guide. Learn more at carescout.com.
CareForward is a technology platform that connects volunteers with seniors, the disabled, and those with chronic or complex health conditions, offering support like transportation, home visits, and more. Details online at careforward.io.
Okay, everybody, we're back here with Ari. We just got through really a first caregiving experience. She did it as a child, but she helped a niece. But you said you were in your early 20s, which I found that to be really interesting. You have another experience in your early 20s. And at that time, this was with a homeless woman, because you were a street outreach worker, which I think is amazing. That goes back to a lot of your servant heart. I want you to tell me just a little bit about Teresa and really about how that changed you, because there's something you said that you took away from that.
Oh my goodness. And thank you for saying her name. I think it's so important to say the names of people, right? And so, yes, beautiful Teresa. I call her my little angel. So she was a woman who was abused, and she was living underneath the 5 freeway. So for those of you who are from Southern California, you'll know where that is, in East Los Angeles, down by Lorena Street. She lived there, and she had an abusive relationship that she just could not find herself getting out of. She was also an alcoholic. I would come and see her anywhere between 1 to 3 times a week under the bridge, right, to provide services, to provide care, to provide any resources that she may need. Yeah. And she got to a point where she just looked very jaundiced. The city kind of got involved because she would always sit in front of a store. People kind of didn't want her there, and they were trying to, there was literally a whole tactical unit to get her off the street.
Yeah.
So I said, listen, give me a moment with her. Don't do all the crazy stuff. I will get her to a hospital. I know she's ill. I will get her to the hospital. She trusts me. I see her all the time.
Yeah.
And true. So she did come with me. I brought her in my vehicle. I took her to the Los Angeles hospital there. Mm-hmm. She ended up, yes, she had full jaundice and kidney failure. I would see her every day after work because I truly, at that moment, I knew she was alone. No one was coming to see her. No one was asking about her. I knew I was her only human connection. And that just really weighed on me. And I remember my other, outreach worker friends or people at work going, what are you doing? Like there's millions of people.
Boundaries.
Out there. And
the words you always hear is boundaries. You must have boundaries. And the reality is we're in human services and, boundaries. I think boundaries are really important. So as a social worker, we both know we have to have boundaries, but there's also compassion and empathy.
Yeah. Yes. And by the way, I wasn't being called to all of them. It wasn't like I was making, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. every single night, going and seeing and visiting all of them. No, but I was definitely called to her and her situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and I would spend time with her and I would just hold her hand. And I remember the first night that I was with her, I said, can I hug you? And tears just started falling down her face. And she only spoke Spanish. So in Spanish, she says, ¿quieres abrazarme? Like she was shocked. Like, you want to hug me? Yeah. So I went in and I gave her the biggest hug. And she, just remembering as I'm telling you, she sobbed like a 3-year-old toddler. I said, Teresa, I love you. She said, Ari, I haven't been touched like this in decades. Mm. Oh my goodness. How does that not change you?
Mm.
How does that not burst your heart open to being who God called us to be, right? Love God and love people. Yeah. It's that simple. Love God and love people.
It is so interesting as caregivers, and we've spoken with so many people that talk about the importance of touch and how impactful that can be, and how I think I just don't be afraid to reach out and touch that person because that does really show that compassion and that heart now.
I want to push because Ari has a lot of different examples of care where she and people could say, well, that's professional. You got paid to do that. I think if you really listen and into the tone, you're like, no, there is a crossover because, there's getting paid and then there's getting paid. Like this feel like you won something in that relationship. Yeah. Like you got as much as you gave. And that's what I hear.
Yeah.
I know that there was, I know that your family has experienced some challenges and with your brother and with your mom. And at one point, brother and mom at the same time, two very different things. And I will say this because this could be an entire episode, is you had your own medical challenges. I mean, own medical challenges that really, I think, set you up for the ability to, I think, even make you a stronger caregiver because you have been a care recipient. You have received care. You have advocated for yourself. You've had people love on you and that sort of thing. And so I think there's a piece of that that's there, and that I think it's fine to weave that piece in. But I want to hear about your brother because your brother got injured earlier on, and then I think there were additional complications later down the road. So let's talk about your brother.
Thank you. Yes, my little brother, Dwight, or I call him Dwighty the brat. He was my little brother after all. We still fight to this day. He's in my head. So yes, it was a early morning and he was a week away, or just 3 days away actually, from going into the sheriff's academy. My brother is a serving sheriff. He wanted to follow footsteps of brother, of course. Yeah. And so he was putting in all of his time, and he was working as a supervisor for a, what are they called? It's like those people that drop off money.
Oh yeah.
What are they called? Oh goodness.
The steel armored trucks.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. The armored trucks where they deliver money from bank to bank.
Yes.
Keep going.
Brinks. Yes.
Correct.
Brinks. Correct. Thank you, Brinks. You can sponsor this.
Yeah.
Anytime we name somebody, we randomly throw that out.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? Actually, the company was Sectron, and they should absolutely sponsor you.
Yeah.
And so he went, one of his employees called in and just said, you know what? I can't make it today. I'm so sick. My brother's like, no worries. It's my last day. I will take your route. No problem.
Wow.
So the very first stop was at a bank, and this robber there was actually 5 of them, just came out and point blank blasted him from head to toe. Never even asked for the money, millions and millions, and left my brother on the street horribly. I mean, parts of his brain were blasted out, his insides, his leg. And so he was pronounced dead at the scene. There were some wonderful, my heart goes out again to the police officers and to the fire department. They have, when the scene is hot, they call it, which means there's no control of anything. Fires are being shot. They're definitely not supposed to enter the scene. There were 2 paramedic firemen that were having a coffee next to Starbucks. Starbucks, go ahead and sponsor them too.
Yes, might as well.
And the scene was hot, but they heard it and they ran straight into the scene while the chaos was all happening. And they as well as on Walker, saved my brother's life. There was an angel. His name was Joey, took off his shirt. And this was during the time, by the way, when HIV was really, really big and rampant, right? And so there was just very scary time. There was blood all over. He did not care. He took off that shirt and applied the pressure to my brother's brain, where the part that had been blasted out. And that and the quick attention from the 2 firemen saved my brother's life. And so he was pronounced dead about 2 or 3 times that day. He clearly did not die. Strong. I mean, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the family all, came together, drove out there, and that just started what was decades, of caretaking. And so the first 6 months at St. Mary's Hospital, every single one of us took a different day. They had a room for us there. We showered there, we stayed there, but those 6 months, everyone had their day to be there and take care of Dwighty, because we quickly knew that at any moment, at any time, anything could happen to him. And if you weren't there to cause awareness, to the staff, because he wasn't their only patient. Yes, he was critically, in the ICU, but he's still not your only patient. We just knew that it was so important in order to make sure that we knew that we did everything that we could for him. We needed to be there during that time. And so, because thank goodness we were Latinos and we have such a big family, we were able to spread the care.
Yeah. Was there ever a question about, okay, we're going to split up these duties? Or was it like, hey, you need to go to the hospital? Or it was just we were all going to do it? There was no question about it at all?
There was never a question.
Yeah.
That never even crossed anybody's mind. It was, what day do you got? This is the day I got. This is the day you got. This is the day I got. This is what we do.
Yeah.
It's
I love that.
who we are. Yeah. I mean, even you asking that question makes me go, what?
Yeah.
Well, and it's for some families, they'd be like, oh, I'm busy.
Yeah.
Or, I'd love to, but there's everybody's always, I'd love to, but
I think a lot of that, and we always talk about culture, because a lot of that does have to do with culture. And, we met, a lot of different people and they say that is just the way that our family was. It's just a culture of the family.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's how I was raised.
So he gets out of the hospital, and praise God in that sense, because that's miraculous. The fact that he was pronounced dead and then, months later he gets out. But I know that he has complications in the sense of just his life is going to be drastically changed. And I know that he was left paralyzed and brain damaged for over 20 years. What was the care like for him over those 20 years in providing a level of support? Because a lot of people would be like, oh, well, this is my responsibility as a sibling, right? This is my responsibility. What was that like? And especially and then 2 years ago, the precipice that really kicked you into full court press.
Yeah. So the first 2 years he was married and he had 2 children. Well, his wife was pregnant at the time, and she was, I believe they were only married for less than 2 years. So that was a whole scenario in itself.
Right.
There came a divorce, quickly short thereafter. There's a lot of feelings in the family that go around that. I just know she was very, very young.
Yeah.
Very, very young. And that's a lot just as a grown adult, right, with some stability to take care of.
Right.
So they were divorced. So the first 2 years was really, really challenging. The first 6 to 8 months wasn't as, because my parents were the ones that were very, very involved. And his wife during the time had no problem, with that. She had then just given birth. She needed to be cared of on a different level herself by her family. So that first year was actually okay. The second year was way more challenging. He needed to be transferred to a specialty facility that was very, very far away. They actually moved there, and that's when the divorce happened. And so my parents they had a physical break, but not an emotional one, because emotionally things were very high because he was so far. So when the divorce came, he had to live somewhere. He was paralyzed all on his right side.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the thinking of probably a third grader at that point. We lost the brother that we knew.
Yeah.
He lost the family he knew. I mean, there was a point in the hospital. Again, I gave it to you straight with no chaser. I was like, hey, do you know who I am? Like, do you know me? And he was like, uh-huh. It's like, oh, my name is Cheese, right? Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, you ding dong. My name is not Cheese. I'm like, Rosa was like, why are you messing with him? I'm like, no, he needs to also understand. Like, no. Let's get this correct, right? So my name is, so we would play that little game. He had to learn to trust us, to love us, that we were there to support him and care for him. And that was a whole journey in itself, right? So you grieve a brother who's still in front of you, but he's not a brother anymore, right? So flash forward many years, he came home to live with my parents. My parents became the ultimate caregivers at the time. I, during all of this, then ended up becoming very ill.
Right.
So I ended up having heart disease. I had no idea. I was 28 years old. And so I was pulled out of the caregiving because now I needed caregiving. I had got married. I was pregnant. I was given 30 days to live at that time. So I went through my own, from 30 days to 60 days to 6 months. I am 53 now, so I am okay. Not too shabby, by the way. So the caregiving, I took a step out of that because, again, I was the one that needed to be cared for, but my family continued on. My sister was absolutely fabulous until the day he transitioned to heaven. My brother, we all pitched in different ways, right? But more than anything, my mother, the stress that we saw mom go through, and I think that has a lot to, has a lot to go through, or speak to what she goes through today.
Yeah.
Is she held all of that in. It's when she shared with us, yes, there's almost like an exhale, but a very painful one, right? That she knows now that he's safe and that he's in heaven, but 24 hours, 7 days a week, my mom was feeling, is this the moment that I lose my son?
Wow.
Is he breathing? She'd give us stories. I'd go in at 1 a.m., at 2 a.m., at 3 a.m. If I didn't hear him like rustle, if I didn't hear, I had to go in there. Because at any moment, any day, he could be gone.
I'm going to pause this right here.
Okay.
And take a break.
All right.
Looking for care in all the wrong places? Try CareScout. Our Care Finder helps you locate long-term care providers in your area who are committed to quality, person-centered care. With CareScout, you can also order a personalized care plan created by a licensed nurse just for you. So say goodbye to a path of aging care that's nothing but confusing, and say hello to a more dignified journey, including providers who see you as you and a plan for quality care you can feel good about. Learn more at carescout.com.
Care Forward is a technology platform that connects volunteers with seniors, the disabled, and those with chronic or complex health conditions, offering support like transportation, home visits, and more. Details online at careforward.io.
All right, everybody, we are back here with Ari Medrano, and we've talked about her brother who was a victim of a truly violent crime. And we talked about your mom a little bit and the care that she really took lead for your brother. But I know your mom became ill, and you, after your illness, you also became a caregiver for your mom. She really carried a lot of responsibility. All those years. As a mother, I really think it's a little bit different caring for a child, even though he was an adult, with some differing abilities, some special health
he had
needs.
a ton of special needs.
Special needs. Tell me about your mom.
My mom is this incredible warrior woman, just absolute warrior. You ask her how she's doing, she's always fine. She can have tubes coming out of every inch of her body, and the woman will still say, I'm great. I'm great. And then she'll tell you what she needs and how she needs it. And you absolutely need to give it to her. Like, because I'm mom, right? And because it's what I want. I mean, she's amazing. And we all do it. And even when she was in the hospital bed and we were losing her, she was still giving, do this and do that. And we were still scared of her.
Yeah.
Well, it's a healthy fear of mom. I think we should all have, just like a healthy fear of God.
It is. But she became ill while your brother was ill as well. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So I had just come back from an event that I was participating in out of the state. I came home. I get a call from my godmother who lives in Mexico and said, glad you're back. Glad you're safe. I need you on a plane, and your mom needs you and your brother needs you. And I said, what are you talking about? And she says, your mom's in the hospital. And I said, okay. Now, mind you, mom being in the hospital wasn't like, oh, mom has been in the hospital a plethora of times. And so has my brother, right? So I just thought, okay, I'm the health advocate in the family. I'm going to get on the plane. I'm going to be there for a couple of days. I packed a little roll on and, clothes for 5, 6, 7 days. I thought the maximum I'll be there is a week. Got on a plane, went over to devastation. And what I didn't know, that mom held to herself, because remember, she's fine. She had been living with COPD for many years, and none of us knew. None of us knew. And so now she had bronchitis that turned into pneumonia that is now as complicated by the COPD. She's on 100% ventilation, high flow. So for those of you who may not know what that means, in the medical arena, that means she's never going home. Anytime you're in any type of percentage of high flow, that comes from the wall. That's the oxygen that comes from the wall. That your home cannot be capable of doing that, right?
Right.
So she'll never go home. She'll end up going, if she survives this, which we don't believe that she will have to be in a nursing home for the rest of her life. That is the one scenario that I went home to. The second scenario was my brother was put on life support. Exact, like days apart from each other, 2 different hospitals. My brother is now put on life support, again, with all the complications that he's already previously had. Let me add on to that. Some of the shelling scraps from the bullets that he was blasted with stayed in his body all of his life. Mm-hmm. Those shellings, those particles turned into cancer into his body. And so basically his body was infiltrated with cancer. So his organs are now beginning to shut down. He's being placed on life support. He's on another hospital. So can you just imagine at that moment, you don't have time to think about you. Like, I can't think about me. None of the brothers and sisters were thinking about each other in that moment. We literally were going, can you imagine being dad right now? Can you just imagine being dad? He's losing his wife and he's losing his son at the exact same time. Like, we don't have time for emotions right now.
Yeah.
We have time to go into action. Right. So for me, because what I had already been through, not just the heart disease, but I had a bunch of tumors all over my body. I'm a beautiful mosaic masterpiece under all of this. I knew that I made a decision when I was paralyzed from the brain tumor that I wanted to walk, and I was going to walk, and I was going to walk out of here. That was a decision that I had made. So I do a lot of talking about those personal decisions and getting the results of your life that you want. Mm-hmm. So I went to mom and I just said, what do you want, mom? Because it matters. It matters what you want. Are you ready to go home, Jesus? And she said, no. I said, have you had that conversation with God? She said, yes. I said, all right. So we're going to do this, right? We're living? She said, yeah. Teach me. Oh my gosh. from that point, it was on like Donkey Kong. I did date myself with those two.
No, I respect that because we played Donkey Kong as well.
Absolutely. So, you know, we were talking about that, but you're saying that all of this is going on and you are strong. Is there any emotion though in there for you? Like at some point you have got to be exhausted. And my other question would be, I know that you're a woman of faith, but do you ever say, Lord,
can you give us a break?
Can I just get a break for just a minute? Like, could somebody be healthy?
Absolutely. So when I said I went there for a week, that week turned into 7 months. So you can imagine, I lived in Texas. My mother lived in Southern California. I thought I was leaving for a week. What does that mean for me financially? What does that mean physically? What does that mean? It means all the things. There was a point where I didn't even know if my car had gotten towed. Where did I leave my car? Did I leave it at the airport? I had no idea. No idea.
Wow.
So there was a lot of things, yes, right, that were just, they were just stacking. They were just stacking. And yes, to your point of, do you ever have that moment? To the yes. But I had to be very cognizant of when those moments would come and where those moments would come. What I mean by that is I had to have the right person alongside of me to be able to have that safe space, right? There were moments where it was just me and Jesus. Absolutely. That usually came in the car on my way home. I was with my mother from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. at night. Sometimes later, because I just gave the people that worked there a little bit of extra candy or whatever it was to just leave me alone. And
I'm all about bribery.
100, yes. So those moments were by myself. However, I had my cousin, the one whose sister passed away. So my cousin ended up passing away at 15, right? Graduating to heaven. And her sister was the caretaker during that time in Mexico. So her and I were connected all throughout, right? And so I knew that she had gone through many challenges. And she also was the caretaker to her father, who graduated to heaven a few short years ago. And so she immediately, got on a call with me when it all happened. And so she let me know, listen, I'm your phone a friend. I'm telling you right now, I'm your phone a friend. Wow. I know you've gone through a lot. I know you've been through a lot, but this is a double whammy and you're going to need some more support. So what I would do is when my cup was like, I'm overflowing in so much information coming in and no emotion coming out, that I would go into a bathroom far, far away in the hospital. And I'd sit on that bathroom floor. I know it sounds disgusting, but the floor was actually clean. In a corner, call my cousin in Mexico and just sob.
Yeah.
Sob. And talk about how unfair it was and talk about my stinky siblings because it wasn't all cherry, and flowers. There was a lot going on when a brother is in a hospital and a mother is in a hospital. And then you have, our father who is either falling apart or he's in La La Land. Like he's just going everywhere, right? So how do we deal with that? There were many moments where we were not aligned. There were many moments where there was yelling. There was many moments where there was a lot of love and a lot of care. It was all the things, all the feels, all the emotion. And so they weren't a place where I can heal and restore, right? So I had to find a place, and I found it with this one cousin who gave me the safe space to just, emotionally and verbally vomit and not hold me to the standard that was coming out of my mouth at the time. So there's your answer.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because I will tell you, especially for me, I had a very small number of people that I would be able to really do that with. But clearly my sisters, the sisters got it all, and they were a safe place. And I hear you saying to other caregivers, especially when you're going through really hard, but even if you're not, have your person. And if you get to have more than one person, great, but have a person who is a judgment-free, safe place where you can just word vomit all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions without fear of rejection. And that's really what it comes down to, is you've got to have that. And some people will say, well, you can have counseling, and counseling's great. Don't get me wrong. I think a licensed clinician they have their place in that. But but you're also, that's 1 hour a week, or if you're lucky, 2. And who is your person that is just going to let you word vomit? Like spill out. And for a lot of people, I think you really have to ask permission, because I'm like, hey, I need permission. Like when I was upset the other day, I called you and I said, hey, I'm really angry. Can I just kind of let it loose? And you're like, and I'm ready.
And then when you were done, you were like, are you still there? I was like, I'm here. I'm still listening.
Yeah. And that was like 10 minutes later, JJ had not even said a word. And I was like, are you still there? As tears are, snot fest is coming through. And she's like, yes. And I'm like, okay. And I think that is anyone. I think that comes down to, whether it's caregiving or just in life, having those people that really lift you up and are safe. I think that's important. And that especially in caregiving.
Oh yeah.
So I can't believe, our time is our time.
Yeah.
And it's time for sister questions.
I have 2. Is that okay?
You can have as many as you want.
Okay. All right. Ari, do you feel you're going to be a caregiver for the rest of your life? Like, are you okay with that? I know you have both of your parents, I believe. But do you see that in your cards? And are you okay with that?
I know that I was called to be that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do know, or I feel that we're all called to care for people, right? But now the level that you care, the investment, I know that's different for everyone. There are people that actually shouldn't be caretakers.
Preach, girl. Preach.
Let's just be real. I'm like, I might just need you to step aside.
With love.
With love. But here's the thing, when it becomes about the patient having to now be emotionally responsible for what you can't handle on the other end of them.
That's right.
Gotcha.
I need you to say goodbye and walk out the door. We're not doing this today. So I, however, know that I do have a gift of compartmentalization.
Mm-hmm.
And a gift of bringing joy to a very unstable, very hard situation. So I will walk in rooms of folks who are not well. And I actually even forgot, there was a girlfriend who I worked with, who I actually was the caregiver until she took her last breath too, because it was too hard for her family. And I remember I would go into the room, to her room, to everyone's room, and be like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You're so lazy. Get up. Like, seriously?
I love how she infuses humor into everything.
Humor is the best medicine.
Humor is medicine.
Yeah. Okay.
It really is. And so I do have the ability to just step aside, put me aside, and it be just all about them. It's not like I don't have my own stuff going on. I have a lot of heavy stuff, but what I have learned throughout my life and my journey is that I can do hard things. We can do hard things together, and we can live with pain and joy in the same hand.
I love that.
We can live in pain and joy in the same hand.
Okay. Here's my sister question. You say that your legacy, says my legacy, love God and love people creatively. Tell me about creatively. Give me an example of loving people creatively.
Okay, so I will give you the example that my father gave us during this time. Because as I said, can you imagine my poor daddy? So the very month, this is when everything was so heightened. And by the way, because I'm just going to wrap this part up for folks, my mother is now at home at 2% low flow. Miracle.
That's right.
So what daddy did the very first month, it was during Christmas when all of this happened, y'all. So Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all the things, was in the hospital. What did daddy do? Christmas Eve, Santa Claus comes to the hospital. Santa Claus is giving candy canes out to everyone in the hospital, comes into my mother's unit, right? Comes into her room, comes over and kisses her. Mom is like, we have this picture. First of all, mom's looking doe-eyed, like a little girl, like she's half here, half 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And then Santa Claus is there. She's looking up at him so sweetly. And then he kisses her. And then we're like, oh, Mom, it's dad, because I don't know what she was going to do. But it was so beautiful. She was first she was very sweet. And it was now that's loving creative.
Yeah.
That is, being able to get out of self and go, who can I be for others? And dad didn't just do that for mom. Before he ended up in mom's room, Dad was in everyone else's room. And by the way, never asked for permission.
Oh, I love
Fantastic.
that.
Like, Dad
Did not get permission slips.
Yeah, I like that.
nope, he didn't care. He's like, well, let them kick out Santa Claus. Like,
Yeah. Who kicks out Santa Claus? I love that.
So yeah, creatively. So I have had that example all my life. That wasn't like the first time Dad ever did something like that. So loving people creatively, loving people where they're at, loving them with joy, loving them with humor, loving them, with candy canes. We would bring saunas, spa days into Mom's hospital room, right? We would make sure that she was oiled down, and we made sure that the room, not just that room, but the break room of the nurses smelled nice. So I had like a spritzer that I would come in with, and I would spray the room, or I would go down the hallway and actually I have one here. Again, they should be sponsoring you all. Trader Joe's Super Lemon Room Spritz. Oh, that's right here. I think we probably spent at least $1,000.
Do you know, it's so funny that you're talking about the spray, because the smell of orange actually lifts your spirits, and lemon would make sense. It's a fresh feel. It is a lift up. And if you think about, how do you use lavender? How do you use, think about that.
Yeah.
Johnson's Baby, that baby lotion for babies, it's like crack. But when those babies, there's a reason babies smell good, because they are bathed in lavender. And, peppermint, and, you think about the scents that really evoke and really help stimulate. And so, because when we use all of our senses for self-care, I think, and I hear you guys are caring for other people in addition to caring for your mom. And you know what I mean? You're caring for the nurses, because you're thinking, you're that insightful to say, we're going to care for you. Because it goes back to when caregivers need caregivers.
Right.
Advocates need advocates.
Yes. Yeah, they were so worn, and you can see it in their faces, right? I could see the switch, at least in some of them. Thank goodness that they did switch it up. Others just came in with some other faces, and then we're like, yeah, we're not going to use that one anymore.
Yeah.
By the way, y'all, you can choose who comes into the room and who doesn't. I'm just saying, it's a thing, and use that power positively for the patient in the room. But yes, I want them uplifted, because if they feel good, they're going to give from a good place, right? And so they're human too, and they're taking care of your human. And even though I go home at 10 p.m., who's watching her from 10 p.m. to, 7 a.m.
That's right.
When I'm not there.
Right.
So I'm going to care for you, and I'm going to come with goodies, and I'm going to find out what your favorite, little pick-me-up drink is, non-alcoholic, of course, that I can bring during the day. I'm just going to put that out. But, I can bring donuts. I can bring cookies. We did that as a family. We would be texting each other and going, all right, I'm bringing donuts today. Oh, you're bringing coffee today. The receptionist, the same thing, because poor thing had to deal with this whole entire family that would come in every day, all day. Clearly we were hiding when they were counting people in the room.
Oh, I support that.
I'm supposed to be there.
I support
those kinds of, but yeah, creatively is all the ways, all the scents, all the, the lotions, the oils, the hair, washing Mom's hair in real products, right? Making sure that those, I brought Loctane, it mattered. It mattered to be able to look and feel and smell like a human, at that time. And so, yeah. And then we had, other family members that were out with my brother, which, by the way, my brother did come home before Mommy came home, and he came home hospice. He came off the life support. So wild that God was like, no, we're going to let him, go home to me at home. So we had him for 3 weeks at home before he graduated to heaven. And so I left Mom stable. I went home to take care of my son, my son. I did call him my baby boy when I was there with him, to take care of him, because it was just too emotionally taxing for my family during that time. And it was a very, very special time. And so he's now graduated to heaven, but we loved him creatively a lot there. We had pillow fights with him. We were name calling, called him a jerk so many times, told him he was a brat. Stop being a stinker. Lakers suck, because he loves the Lakers. And so we just want to get under his skin on purpose to get him to react. But loving creatively, as crazy siblings do.
Wow.
I love that.
I know.
So here's my last question. It's always the last question. And I've been doing this. I think I've asked this every episode for 2.5 years now. what is your favorite guilty pleasure? But really a guilty pleasure is really, I don't know why it has to be guilty. What's the thing that you do for yourself? Like there is so much. Why I
don't want to tell anybody
What is it
else.
that you don't want to tell anybody
I'm not sharing
else.
with anybody
I'm
else.
not sharing. Like we've had people say everything from stopping at Starbucks and not telling anybody that they were getting it. They drink it in the car just for themselves. But what is the one thing you do just for yourself? The one thing, the way that you fill your bucket that you just love to do if you get the chance?
I don't even know if it's a guilty pleasure. It's just a pleasure, and it's what fills my cup. And folks might go, "Oh my gosh, she's just too Christian. She's just," but listen, I did it before I came on with you. I fill the atmosphere with joy and praise. And so I worship every morning. And for me as a faith-filled woman, it's in the only place in the Bible that it says he inhabits us, which is he lives in us, is he inhabits our praise. And so he like abides in us when we praise him. And so I am like the praise crazy, like, amen, Lord. I was dancing around my place before we started this podcast.
She's
and
a singer.
Shift the atmosphere.
She's a singer. I feel like she needs to come on the cruise with us because
she's a K-lover. Are you a K-Love fan? Are you like dancing to Christian music? Absolutely.
I'm going to tell you. I will tell you, if there had been cameras in the room at Memorial Sloan Kettering when they would take Jason out, I would listen to Christian music while I was waiting for his scans and stuff. And half the time, and I felt like I was sitting so much, and I would get up and I would dance in the room. And there was a time that he was gone. I'm pretty sure I got 5,000 steps in from dancing in place. And I felt so good. And every now and then I'd be like, I wonder if one of those nurses come by to check in on me, and they looked in the little door window and were like, nope, she's fine.
She's crazy.
She's crazy. I do love me some dancing to some Christian music.
I know.
It really brings me joy.
Ari, thank you so much just for sharing, because you have so many unique stories, but the way that you've approached them truly is with a serving life. It's a servant heart, and it's give to gain. It really
Give
is.
to gain.
Yeah.
I like the love creatively. There's a couple of phrases that you said that will really stick with me. Give to gain and just loving creatively. And it allows for you to individualize that love to that person. Yeah. It doesn't just have to show up in one way, because we love in multiple ways. Right. So, Ari, thank you so much for being with us. We love you. You are now officially an honorary sister, and always be a sister. And guys, thanks for being with us. And until we confess again, we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Well, friends, that's a wrap on this week's confession. Thanks so much for listening in to the podcast. But before you go, please take a moment to leave us a review and tell your friends about the Confession Show. Don't forget, visit our website to sign up for our newsletter, as well as connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and Twitter. You'll also find the video recording of all our episodes on the Confessions website and our YouTube channel. We'll see you next Tuesday when we come together to confess again. Till then, take care of you. Okay, let's talk disclaimers. We are not medical professionals and are not providing any medical advice. If you have medical questions, we recommend that you talk with a medical professional of your choice. As always, my sisters and I at Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver have taken care in selecting the speakers, but the opinions of our speakers are theirs alone. The views and opinions stated in this show are solely those of the contributors and not necessarily those of our distributors or hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted, and no part can be reproduced without the express written consent of the Sisterhood of Care, LLC. Thank you for listening to the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver podcast.